Here again is Stone Phillips.
Millions of Americans use them every day. Chances are you do. They're as close as your neighborhood shopping mall, your office building, or your subway station. You probably don't think of them as dangerous, and for the most part, they're not. But accidents happen more often than you think. Just last week, a 3-year-old girl was seriously injured on one here in New York City. Tonight, Chris Hansen has the story of a hidden danger underfoot and the unlikely advocate taking steps to try and solve the problem.
You just don't expect to find an activist in a cloistered monastery, a sanctuary of peaceful prayer.
I'm dogged, I suppose, but I don't like to pass up something that needs fixing.
And that fixing has put this nun at odds with major corporations and the United States government.
I never looked on it as a crusade, but I can't stop being interested. It's a problem that is not fixed yet.
Sister Mary Therese Zemikiel's One Nun campaign from this monastery outside Cleveland doesn't concern questions of faith. It's about escalators.
They are potentially dangerous. They're not only dangerous to children, there have been some terrible accidents to adults also, but the children are the most vulnerable because they're the smallest.
She's felt that way since her nephew, Jamie Zemikiel, got on an escalator with his mother in a Sears store 19 years ago.
I remember getting on at the top and my mom taking my hand.
And he had one hand up on the moving railing, just exactly as you and I were taught to do.
I remember going down it. I remember something tugging at my foot. Oh, here we go.
The memory of what happened that day is etched into Jamie's mind.
This is about where it started.
Even now, he has no trouble showing his aunt where it all happened.
I remember my mom yelling and screaming, and then the next thing I remember is my foot coming out and not even recognizing it as my foot.
Jamie's foot had been trapped in the gap between the escalator step and the sidewall and was horribly crushed in seconds. At first, Sister Therese thought Jamie's injury was some kind of freak accident, but she found out that according to the federal government, currently, more than 16,000 people a year are sent to emergency rooms because of escalator accidents. The vast majority are children, just like her nephew.
The whole thing was terrible. I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand by and not try to do something.
This is the letter from the escalator company.
Sister Therese says she's hounded the industry and government agencies to improve escalator safety. Most recently, she's taken her campaign to First Lady Hillary Clinton at the White House. But 19 years after her nephew was hurt, children are still getting hurt.
I heard great things about Boston, that there was a lot to do and a lot to see up in the Boston area.
Come on.
You get two of them, don't you?
Andrew Baird and his family were visiting Boston for the first time in June of 1994. After leaving the New England Aquarium, Baird and his 2 kids got on an escalator at the MBTA station, Boston Subway.
My daughter was on the step ahead of me, and I had her right hand in my right hand. I felt a jerk, and my daughter started to scream, like she was scared.
Do you remember what happened?
But 4-year-old Kelsey Baird was screaming in pain.
The escalator bite me.
The escalator what?
The escalator bite me.
The escalator bit you?
I cried and screamed.
The thing jumped up, grabbed her leg, and ripped it wide open to the bone.
This is what Kelsey's leg looked like after the escalator bit her. It took emergency surgery and 5 months physical therapy before Kelsey could walk again. Her family is considering suing both the Boston subway system and the manufacturer. You might think the danger zone of an escalator is here, where the jagged teeth merge at the top or the bottom, but it's not. According to government and industry figures, this is where the majority of traumatic injuries occur, the small gap between the moving step and the sidewall. By industry standard, the gap between an escalator step and the sidewall of the escalator is 3/16 of an inch, but over time, internal parts can wear down. This knocks the steps out of alignment, causing them to shift. This can widen the gap between step and sidewall to the point where it can catch a child's small shoe, trapping the foot and leg against the sidewall. The moving escalator can then tear the leg open in seconds. The escalator industry says that its products are the safest form of public transportation, providing up to 9 billion rides a year. The industry promotes safety with warning signs on escalators and a safety campaign urging children to hold parents' hands and stand towards the middle of the step, away from the gap. But the reality is that many children grab the moving handrail as they ride, putting their feet dangerously close to the gap. Critics say that until that gap is significantly reduced, children will continue to get hurt.
We found hundreds just in Boston. One of the problems is that there's no reliable database of accidents.
Reporters David Armstrong and Shelley Murphy investigated escalator safety for the Boston Globe.
On the surface, everything looks very rosy. You wouldn't think there's a problem here in Massachusetts or elsewhere. But if you dig a little bit, you quickly realize that there's a serious problem here.
How serious? Their series uncovered over 300 accidents requiring emergency room treatment in Boston alone in the past 2 years. They say most of the accidents were due to faulty equipment or lack of maintenance. And there's another problem. The escalator industry says the average lifespan of an escalator is 15 years, but many escalators across the nation are much older. Some have been running for 40 or 50 years.
Public safety is compromised. People are getting hurt because this equipment isn't being inspected as it should be, and because proven safety measures are not being undertaken.
Armstrong and Murphy say part of the problem is the lack of federal escalator safety regulations. It's up to cities and states to enforce safety codes, codes that are frequently written by committees dominated by the escalator industry.
What we discovered is that the industry is very quick to blame all accidents on the rider. In the case of Kelsey Beard, they said, girl riding up escalator, tripped, cut leg.
Are these escalators safe?
Absolutely.
No question.
No question, no doubts.
John Haley was general manager of the Boston subway system at the time of Kelsey Baird's injury.
There have been conflicting stories, but the escalator is not solely responsible for that incident.
Are you saying the Bairds are lying?
I'll leave it at that. I'm not in a position to get into debating who said what and who was where, because the case is being litigated.
But Baird says there is no debate. He was just doing what millions of people do on escalators.
I was holding my daughter's hand by the right hand. Then all of a sudden, this thing jumped up, grabbed her leg, ripped it open. That's something that I did? I don't think so.
What angers Baird even more is something he says he heard on the way to the hospital.
The paramedics told me when we were inside the ambulance that they get at least 2 calls per week on escalator accidents.
And then, when Baird got to the hospital, he says 2 subway police officers wanted to talk with him.
They told me to sue the MBTA because it's got to stop. It's got to stop. And then they turned around and they told me, they says, the reason why they don't do anything about this is because it's cheaper to pay the claims than it is to replace the escalator.
That's a pretty cynical argument. I don't know who those critics are that would make that kind of allegation. If we thought for a moment that there was an element of the system that wasn't safe, we'd shut it down and figure out a way to deal with the inconvenience.
We wanted to see for ourselves just how safe the Boston escalators are. So Dateline hired Joe Morrissey, a former Massachusetts escalator safety inspector. Morrissey now has his own business advising developers. He rode the subway escalators with our producer and crew.
If the public is being informed that these escalators are safe, they're being misled.
We took Morrissey to 3 of Boston's busiest stations. Maverick, in the north end of the city.
I found the escalator was making an incredible noise. It sounded like it was self-destructing.
In the north end of the city.
I found the escalator was making an incredible noise. It sounded like it was self-destructing.
The noise from the escalator was so bad it was shut down while we were still in the station. Morrissey then examined the escalator closely.
That's at least 1/4 of an inch, at least. The molding is loose. This is jutting out. This should be smooth to prevent someone from getting their hand or thumb caught in here as they're coming up.
Next stop, Government Center in the heart of Boston.
I noticed some of the steps were just, the tread was broken right off. The wider the gap, the easier it is for someone's foot or hand to get into that section.
Finally, to the aquarium station next door to one of the most popular tourist attractions in New England, the station where Kelsey Baird was injured.
Steps are in terrible condition. There's an excessive gap on each side. I don't know why the MBTA hasn't ripped these things out 20 years ago. No, they are not safe. In fact, if I was a state inspector, I'd shut them down today.
Following our visit, Dateline contacted the MBTA and told them what we found. The MBTA responded with this letter, stating, while some of our escalators may be old, they are not unsafe. Each escalator is certified annually by the Massachusetts Department of Public Safety. Regarding injuries on their escalators, the MBTA claims mechanical defects are not the problem, but human error accounts for the majority of incidents. Problems with escalators happen every week all over the country. Since we began our investigation, Dateline found cases involving injuries in New York, Pittsburgh, Washington, and back in Boston, where another child was trapped by the escalator at the aquarium station. With all those injuries, why hasn't the government cracked down on unsafe escalators?
For a number of decades, a number of concerned people have petitioned the Consumer Product Safety Commission to do something, and their response has been, there's no problem.
And who was the first person to petition the Consumer Product Safety Commission about escalators? Sister Mary Therese, back in 1978.
They chose to reject the petition. They said there is not insufficient evidence of danger to children.
Did you feel like you kind of got slapped in the face here?
Yes. I don't know how on earth they couldn't be interested in doing something.
But
Just
Sister Therese didn't give up. She heard about an invention that appeared to solve the problem that was hurting so many children on escalators.
An invention was made. It's wonderful. Now there is a way to close that gap.
Yet the escalator companies appear to want no part of this.
They want no part of it.
Why do you think they won't use this?
A hardness that goes into insanity.
What is this invention that Sister Therese and others claim could help prevent hundreds of escalator accidents each year? And why are escalator companies resisting it? The answer is when we come back.
A story so powerful.
She's gone. It's my baby.
It could only come from today's headline.
Public Defender Tim Dickey investigates why these outstanding debts are past due. Tonight at 10 on 5.
Marty Griffith, Sabrina Smith, and Tim Dickey, your Channel 5 public defenders.
From Studio 3B in New York, here again is Jane Pauley.
Returning now to our story, you've seen how easily you or your children could be injured on an escalator. Now, there's a device that could prevent many of those injuries. But why aren't steps being taken to install this innovation across the country? Once again, here's Chris Hansen.
It's really very simple. This is the step safety side plate that I invented.
For 30 years, Carl White has been an engineer in the escalator industry and has served as an expert witness in many cases involving entrapment injuries on escalators.
Having seen and known about this type of accident, it concerned me enough to think of some way of preventing it.
This is what White came up with, the step safety side plate. Doesn't look like much, but it's actually a specially formulated piece of plastic that fits onto the side of the escalator step. Quite simply, it fills in the danger zone between the step and the side of the escalator, where so many children are trapped and injured every year.
White's invention adds about $4,000 to the cost of an escalator. That's not a lot of money, considering new escalators cost, on average, more than $100,000.
If it's that inexpensive, why isn't the industry using your part?
I'm at a total, complete loss to know the answer to that question.
While escalator manufacturers have rejected White's invention, it is being used, and used successfully, at a place that stands as a monument to 100 years of inventions, the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum. Following several serious accidents here, the museum contacted White.
So at that point, you showed them your invention, and they actually bought it.
That's right.
The Smithsonian installed the safety side plates in 1992. Since then, there hasn't been a serious escalator injury in a tourist attraction that draws over 8 million visitors every year.
So, because your invention is right there, it would be very difficult, if not impossible, for a child to get caught or clothing to get caught in there.
That's right. You can see it for yourself.
Yet the industry says Carl White's invention has not been tested properly. Carl White's out to make a buck, and we don't want to make Carl White a millionaire, essentially.
Well,
that's the word.
I
right?
think in the tradition of American free enterprise, those same companies make their fair share of money doing what they do. And I personally have no resentment, animosity, or jealousy toward them. And I don't know why they should toward me or any other inventor of someone who comes up with a better product.
It's not a cure-all to that problem. It's a step in the right direction.
George Strakosch spoke with us on behalf of the escalator industry.
But there, again, we're not into a proof positive type of situation.
Dateline contacted the leading escalator manufacturers, Otis and Montgomery, and the other companies through the industry's safety foundation. The manufacturers declined to talk with us, but the foundation recommended Strakosch, vice chairman of the industry's National Safety Code Committee, to talk about White's invention.
However, it's a proprietary item. It's sold by one company. He owns the patent to it, and he wants to make his money out of it. There's no question about it.
So are you saying that these escalator companies will not put this part on their product because they would have to pay this other company?
No, the person that pays is the buyer of the escalator itself. But again, even though the claim is that it has prevented the accident, there's no proof positive. It hasn't been around a long time.
Since 1989, we've had them on all of our escalators.
Rick Simonetta is general manager of MARTA, Atlanta's public transportation system. He says there's no doubt that White's device makes it a lot safer for the more than 400,000 people using MARTA's escalators every day.
There have been no injuries as a result of any entrapments. So we really think that they have been 100% successful. And we'll continue to put these on our new escalators as our system expands.
White's invention has been in use since 1983, but even recommendations like Atlanta's don't seem to have changed the industry's mind about the device. Otis and Montgomery, the two largest manufacturers, have sent letters like these to some of White's customers, warning them Otis is not persuaded the escalator side plates are either safe or effective. Some letters even warn of possible risks if the side plates are installed. White says this amounts to a scare tactic, and even claims the industry is blackballing him.
Do you think the industry will ever change its view of your invention?
As people high up in the escalator manufacturers have said off the record to me, the day your patent expires, you can be sure we'll adopt it and be using it.
But White's patent doesn't expire until the year 2000, and now some manufacturers have come out with devices to protect against sidestep injuries on their own escalators. But White says his invention is the only one that can be fitted to virtually all of the 30,000 escalators already installed and in use.
Do you think it comes down to a matter of cost? They don't want to have to pay somebody else because they don't have the patent?
I can't answer that, but it's quite possible.
So maybe because these big companies don't have the patent for this device, they're not using it.
Well, it's you've heard that statement before, not invented here,
As the debate between the industry and White continues, escalators from Atlanta to San Francisco have been fitted with White's invention. And as for Sister Mary Therese, she continues to worry about children riding escalators.
I feel like these injuries are just falling down into a black hole, and everyone's forgetting about them. And I don't see any answers coming from industry itself.
Now, these escalator companies are likely going to say, this sister is very emotional. She had a nephew who was injured. She's found a mission, a crusade. Maybe she's a little too emotional.
The only emotion that I really feel in this is anger. And I think that all the parents who have had injured children would be even more angry than I. They didn't have a voice. And I just tried to be that voice.